Perik Yud Tes, Pasuk Yud Beis. We've spoken about, now I left you with a question last time. By the way, Torah Anytime people, I apologize. We did not have shir the last couple of days because of 2 days ago I wasn't feeling well, and yesterday somebody else gave the shir. So we're on page 840. And last time I left you with a question. Page 840. And the question I left you with last time was, if, for example, don't sit right there, don't block it, because right there is good. Right there is good. If, for example, somebody in the room is hungry and says, boy, am I starving. And you walk over and you give him a piece of non-kosher food. Oh, yeah, boy, am I hungry. I apologize, I'm a little hoarse today. I'm actually not a little horse, maybe a big pony. Not a little horse, a big pony. It's an interesting expression, a little horse. Big pony, I'm a big pony. I don't want to be a pony, I'll be a Doberman. Yeah, today I'm actually a Doberman, right? Yeah, that's probably a lot closer. Page 840. So if somebody's hungry and you walk over and you give him a piece of non-kosher food, so you have transgressed. If he eats it, obviously he's transgressed. But if you are also, you've transgressed the Torah prohibition of lifnei iver lo sitein michshol, which means you're not allowed to put a stumbling block in front of a blind person. That means you can't set up people for sin. If you know somebody's going to do something wrong, and you aid and abet him, or you create a situation where he's going to do something wrong, somebody's got a certain vulnerability, and you go and you make it possible for him to do the avera. So not only he's done the avera, but you've done the avera also. You've transgressed the prohibition of lifnei iver lo sitein michshol. Not allowed to put a stumbling block in front of a blind person. Okay, that's the basic idea of the mitzvah. Okay, it even goes so far as some people ask, like, are you allowed to? Let's say there's a guy and a girl in a room. Can you walk out of the room and leave them alone? In which case you're going to create a situation of a stumbling block. There are many different examples of that. Okay. Now, what happens if we all know that you're not allowed to be arrogant, you're not allowed to be haughty. Are you allowed to honor another person? And the answer is, let's say a rabbi walks into the room. So you're supposed to stand up for the rabbi, but you're creating a stumbling block, aren't you? Because it could go to his head. If you compliment, somebody painted a painting, I go, wow, that's a gorgeous painting. So now I've complimented you, now I'm creating a stumbling block, because now it's going to go to your head. So why are you allowed to do that? Why are you allowed to honor people? Why are you allowed to, in any area, why are you allowed to do that? Even more. Yeah. Anybody got an answer for that? Why are you allowed to honor? Aren't you creating a stumbling block? What do you say? What's your name? Shaya, yeah.
Is it possible maybe just because honoring is a little different? You know, you could then, you honoring a rabbi or a great painter as the example you gave, could maybe make them go on and create more goodness and share more good things.
It's a good idea, but the problem is it could also, anytime you get complimented, is your first thought, oh good, I'm going to create more goodness now? Or is your first thought, my ego? Right? In any situation, you hit a good shot, somebody says, hey, good shot, you're a little, so why are you allowed to do that? Why are you allowed to do that? What do you say?
Is it that they're putting the stumbling block in front of themselves? You're not actually putting the stumbling block, you're lifting them up, but they're putting this own stumbling block?
It's an interesting, you're trying to make a very fine split. That's a very good Talmudic split. It's a good Talmudic reasoning, but at the end of the day, but it's coming from me. Had I not been there, he wouldn't have that opportunity to lift himself up. It's a good question. It's a very provocative question. So the answer is like this. Let me ask you a question. Let's say you come up to me, you say you want to borrow $20 because you want to buy drugs. I don't mean Tylenol. You need $20 because you just ran out of ecstasy, right? So you need $20 for a pill. Can I lend you the $20? Classically, then I'm putting a stumbling block in front of a blind person. Without it, you can't get it. So I'm not allowed to lend you the money. What if I owe you $20 and you say to me, you owe me $20 to pay, the date of payment is today. Today is, you owe me the money, you borrow the money for a week is up, you owe me my $20, I need the $20 because I got to buy some ecstasy. Can I pay you back the $20?
You're obligated.
100% correct. What's your name?
Jasper.
Jasper, 100%. Not only I can, I have to. Why? Because it's yours. I owe it to you. Honor is something I owe the person. I owe you the honor. What you do with it is your business. It's not like I'm lending you honor. I owe you the honor. And therefore we have an obligation to honor people because you're entitled to that. I owe you that. You owe it to people to build them up and compliment them. Very much what you said, because when you do compliment people, sometimes it could change their mood to put them and actually motivate them, which I said. But at the end of the day, I owe it to you. When I owe you, then you'll have to be careful how you use it. But that's not up to me, that's up to you. Here we had the Parah Aduma. The Parah Aduma, we said, the red cow, has this paradox. And the Torah begins, the very first pasuk in the Parsha was Zos Chukas Torah. This is the law of the Torah. This is what do you call it? The Art Scroll translates the decree of the Torah. But it could also be understood as this is an underlying principle of the Torah. There's something in the Parah Aduma, there's something in the red cow, which is an underlying principle in Torah. You know what that underlying principle is? That a person has this paradox within ourselves. The Parah Aduma, the red cow, those who are impure and get sprinkled with it, so they are purified. Those who work with the cow, they become impure themselves. That's the ultimate paradox, right? That's what we spoke about. In Torah, Rabbi Moshe Feinstein says, we are built on that paradox. That means, for myself, I have to be as restrained in my, whatever my interests and pursuits are. I have to be, I don't want to use the word stingy, but I have to be controlled with myself. For other people, I have to be generous. For myself, I have to be humble. For other people, I have to honor them. I'm not allowed to pursue honor, but I have to pursue the honor of other people. So we have these, we have to be able to turn it on and turn it off. We have different traits that are used under different circumstances. For myself, I may have to be more rigid. For other people, I have to be a little bit more lenient. And so it's called, the reason the Parsha begins with Zos Chukas HaTorah, this concept of the Parah Aduma, that one person becomes Tameh, one person becomes Tahor, that's a concept that we find in the Torah all over the place. That it's a chukah, it's a principle in Torah that there's a turn it on and turn it off. And for myself, and it's a very difficult thing, by the way, because you have to know, there are certain times, let's say you're a principal of a school. If you're a principal of a school, in the school you have to be a principal. When you come home, you have to be a father. Can't treat your kids like a principal in the house. I mean, you could, if you ever, but not if you ever want them to talk to you again. You can't raise them as a principal. If you're a law enforcement officer, so on the street you can't cut anybody any slack, unless they pay you off. But you can't, in Chicago they used to say an honest cop was a guy after you paid him off, he stayed bought. There was an honest cop in Chicago. Actually, I had a friend who got stopped on the outer drive in Chicago. Cop stopped him and said, buddy, I have to give you a ticket for speeding. It's like, can I pay part of it in advance? He said, yeah, okay, so how much? Oh, whatever it's worth to you. It's a good line. I think of that, Nick, right? Can you pay part of it in advance? Yeah, yeah, he got, that worked. I had another friend who was coming from the butcher shop. He had a giant kosher salami. Cop stopped him. He said, I have to give you a ticket. He said, you want a salami? He said, hey, heck yeah. And he started pulling out the salami. Cop said, not here. They pulled him into a side street, gave him the salami, and the cop went home and him and his wife had some kosher salami. What's the problem? All in a day's work. So the what do you call it? If you're a law enforcement officer on the road, on the streets, you have to be one way. At home, you're something else. I think I told you that the high-ranking military officers have a very high rate of divorce. Because in the military, if you're talking to somebody, any conversation ends as soon as the higher ranking officer says, that's an order. And as soon as you say one more word, you could be court-martialed. I'll let you talk as long as you want. And as soon as I'm ready, I say, That's an order, Corporal. Say one word, the major could have you court-martialed. You come home and say to your wife, okay, dinner at 1600 hours. Doesn't work at home. Oh yeah, oh yeah, Major. Take the garbage, Major, sir. Right? And here you are, you're the guy who's giving orders all day, and all of a sudden at home you got to take orders. See, in life you have to know how to turn it on and turn it off. It's a very difficult thing. With all character traits, it's the same way. I have to be very, very demanding of myself. I have to be patient with other people. And so on. That's the Chukas of Torah. That's why the red cow is called a principle that underlies the entire Torah. All of our behavior is contained in that red cow.
Wait, why?
Why what?
Why is
the red cow? Because the red cow has this paradox of, for some people they become, so the same red cow, some people become impure. Some people, the people who are impure, when sprinkled with the ashes mixed with water, they become purified. And the people who did the sprinkling and touched the cow, they become impure. That means that you're on opposite. Well, what's going on over here? On opposite sides over here. Says Moshe Feinstein, right? Because in life that happens. That certain things which for others are good, for you it's impure. It's good for somebody else that you're generous. For yourself, it would be impure to be too generous. Don't treat yourself too well. Treat ourselves well, not too well. Not excess. Excess for other people, we have to worry. I'll tell you where else this applies. What's it called in English? Hishtadlus. A responsible effort of making parnasa, for example. Due diligence. I like that word. I say that. I like that word. Due diligence. In my own parnasa, in my own pursuit of a livelihood, I meant to behave responsibly, but not go overboard and try to help God in what we would call desperation measures. The line, that's generally the line, by the way, the line of defining how much effort you should put in is, did you just do something desperate, or did you do something responsible? If I'm a lawyer, or if I'm an accountant, how many hours do you have to work today as an accountant to make a life in our 9 hours a day? I don't know, what is it, 8 to 5, whatever the hours are. So if I work 8 to 5, that's a responsible pursuit of my livelihood. To go and take out a second job, so now I work 16 hours a day, anybody would tell you that's desperation. You don't need to do that. And if you try to make more money that way, so God will take the money away from you some other way. You've crossed the line. What about my friend who's hurting for his livelihood? There I have to go and do everything desperate that I possibly can to help him. Because that's for him. That's for him. For myself, I have to limit my effort, and for somebody else, there's no limit to the effort. And therefore, again, if you have to turn it on, what's good for him may be bad for me. What's good for me may be bad for him. And so on and so forth. Okay, same thing when it comes to faith. When it comes to myself, I have to have faith. I have to talk to myself sometimes. I'm stuck in traffic. I'm stuck, or let's say somebody's not feeling well, they have to go to a doctor. I have to say to myself, okay, listen, this is all part of Hashem's plan, and He wants my knee to hurt right now because I need an atonement for something, because once in a while, I ran away from shul too fast, or whatever, I convince myself. If my friend comes over and says, boy, my knee is throbbing, I say, it's an atonement. No, that's not what you do for your other guy, because then your knee's going to hurt even more, because he's going to kick you in the knee for being such a philosopher at his expense. So you don't do. For somebody else, you say, well, we have to get you the best doctor and see if I can afford it, and pay for a specialist, and so on and so forth. So what's good for one isn't necessarily good for the other. That's the first idea here. Now let's go on. If you take a look at Pasuk Yud Beis, Yud Tes. Yud Beis. Where is it? No, that's not the right. No, sorry, Yud Dalet. Pasuk Yud Dalet. Okay. So now the Torah is going to tell us what appears to be straightforward laws. The laws of. I'm not going into the laws of ritual impurity now, but if it's right in the, it's about 12 lines from the top. If you find it, please show the person next to you. Pasuk Yud Dalet. Zos ha-Torah, this is the Torah. This is the law. Remember, gentlemen, Torah itself, what's the root of the word Torah? What's that? Hora'ah. Hora'ah means instruction. A moreh is a teacher. That's where Torah comes from. Zos ha-Torah, this is the law. Adam ki yamus be'ohel, a man who dies in a tent. There's a dead body in a tent. Tent doesn't have to be a tent, by the way. It's any enclosed structure. Kol haba el ha'ohel, V'chol asher ba'ohel yitba shivas yamim. Anything that enters that tent becomes ritually impure, becomes tameh. So, for example, in a hospital, if somebody dies, the entire hospital becomes. These are all the laws of ritual impurity, and it's a vast subject. It's a vast subject, and that's why a kohen has to be careful. A kohen can't go into a hospital unless he knows for a fact that nobody in the hospital has died, and all the various laws having to do with tuma and tahara, ritual impurity, but. The Gemara says a different subject. If you guys, how many of you have learned Gemara? How many of you have learned Gemara here? Have you learned a little bit of Talmud? Okay. Easy, hard? What would you say? Not easy. Not easy. And the more you learn, the more uneasier it gets. Right? It gets even more. Just when you thought it was hard, it gets even harder. It gets even harder. What does it require? It requires full devotion, full concentration, full commitment to go figure it out, and then just when you think you figured it out, somebody throws a curveball. Tovsos throws a curveball at you. It's hard. There's nothing harder. There's nothing harder. I was once actually at home. I was preparing the daily Gemara shir. So I was getting it was hard, and I got to figure it out. I got to figure out the Gemara. I got to figure out the Tosfos. Figure out the Rashi. I'm working on the Gemara. And at a certain point, I went into the kitchen. My wife was in the kitchen. I said to her, you can't imagine the pressure that I have every day to prepare a Gemara shir. You don't learn Gemara. Women don't learn Gemara. You don't know what to go on. I gave her a good speech. And of course, she ignored me, as usual. And in the middle of this drasha, it was such a good speech, too. And in the middle of the speech, the lights go out in the house. Blackout. So I walk out into the hallway. The electric box is there. So I start flipping switches. Flick, flick, flick. Nothing. Nothing. Vayhi choshech. Nothing. I'm flicking switches, and my wife said, "No." I said, "I'm trying. I don't know where it is." I'm flicking, nothing. She comes out, walks right past me, takes one look. There's a switch. I wasn't there 10 seconds earlier. She flicks the switch. All the lights go on in the house. Now, that hurts. I want to tell you, that really hurts. I'm standing there like, yeah, Then she starts walking. She turns around and she says, "Do you need help preparing your Gemara shir, Rabbi Kaplan?" And then walked off into the sunset. I'm like, yeah, yeah. So Gemara is hard. Gemara is hard. If you've learned Gemara, Gemara is hard. Look, the Gemara says about this pasuk, Zos HaTorah. This is the Torah. If you want to learn Torah, Zos HaTorah, completely out of context. The Gemara takes the pasuk out of context. This is the Torah. You know what Torah requires? Adam ki yamus ba'ohel. A man's got to kill himself in the tents of Torah. Doesn't literally mean become a kamikaze. They have to perform honorable harikari, right? But you have to kill yourself. It means that it requires singular focused devotion. I had a guy here once in the yeshiva told me, he was, I think, at the University of Florida. He told me he knew a girl who became a member of the United States Olympic swim team. He told me that the guy was in the Yeshivat Ohr Somayach. He knew this girl. Between the ages of 9 and 17, there were 4 days that she was not in a pool. That's what it takes. That's what it takes. You're nodding, Jasper. Right? It's entirely believable, right? That's what it takes. The professional athletes, what's his name? Lou Ferrigno played the Incredible Hulk, the incredibly intelligent Hulk. Yeah. So Lou Ferrigno said, I once heard an interview with him, and Lou Ferrigno said he used to push weight, he used to lift weights until he passed out from the pain. I hope he had a good spotter. Right? But he lifted weights until he passed out, because that's what it takes if you want to get to the top. Andre Agassi, remember Andre Agassi, the tennis pro? Andre Agassi was a 12-year-old kid. He was in a tennis tournament, and they were walking out. He finished second in a tennis tournament when he was 12 years old. They were walking out to the parking lot. His father took the trophy, and he threw it in the garbage dumpster. He said, "We didn't enter to finish second." That's what it takes. That's what it takes. It takes singular devotion. The people that you know, the Reb Chaim Kanievskis of the generation, these are people who they were very singularly focused. They didn't. Do you know that WD-40? You ever heard of WD-40? You know why it's called WD-40? It took 40 times. They tried 39 formulas and it didn't work, and it was on the 40th that it worked. The 40th time, that's why they call it WD-40. I don't know what the WD stands for, right? I think I don't know if they made it up. Do you know that Haagen-Dazs ice cream doesn't mean anything? Haagen-Dazs is they made up a name that sounds like a Dutch name. It has zero meaning whatsoever. These are important facts to know, gentlemen. Right? If you don't know that, you need me to tell you that. The Haagen-Dazs, the what do you call the WD-40? That means they tried. That means he didn't give up. 39 times he didn't give up. He tried it till they finally got the formula. Torah requires. So there's an interesting what do you call it? I think the Chafetz Chaim says there's a guy. Him and his wife have a store, and the guy says to his wife, listen. Time's passed. I haven't done a lot of Torah study in my life. I want to study some Torah. I think every morning for 3 hours, I'm going to go to the Beis Medrash and I'm going to study Torah. He says, okay. Husband goes off to the Beis Medrash, and that day happens to be the store gets flooded with customers and there's a mix-up or something. She sends somebody to the Beis Medrash to tell her husband she needs help. Husband sends a message back with the messenger, tell my wife I died. He says, I'm sorry to tell you this, your husband died. So she's completely, she's completely broken up, and after 3 hours, he all of a sudden the front door opens and in he comes. So I thought you died. He says, well, I was close to it. He says, oh, Baruch Hashem, you're better. Okay. The next day he goes off, and again she needs him. And again he sends back a message, he died. She goes, what is going on here? Third day it happens, he died. What's going on? So the husband says to the wife, look, we made a deal. You're going to let me go to the Beis Medrash to learn. If I died, had I really died, you certainly wouldn't be upset with me for not coming and helping you in the store. If I died, you wouldn't say to me, oh, well, Harold, you shouldn't have died. I needed you at the register today. You wouldn't have any complaints. If you just pretend I died, and I'm out of commission for those 3 hours, then you should have no problem. Just pretend I died. That's Adam Kiyom, Zos Torah, Adam Kiyomus Ba'ohel. When a person dies in the tents of Torah, you devote yourself to if you're studying for you went to college, you were studying for midterms, studied for finals in college. What were the rules when you were studying for college? The rules were that if you couldn't get a hold of a cheat test, right, that you had to study. Those were the rules, right? And you can't be bothered now because now you got to study. There are certain times in life I cannot be bothered. Right now, I'm in the fourth quarter of a very close football game. No one can bother me. We know that. You do not talk to somebody in the fourth quarter of a football game. No, we're in the fourth quarter now. Huh?
Bears game.
If it's a Bears game, we pray. If it's a Bears game, we pray. There's prayers in the fourth quarter, even though you're not allowed to pray for a miracle. But there's prayers. But at the end of the day, the what do you call it? There are certain things. Is it important to you or it's not important to you? That's Adam Kiyamos Bo. That's what the Torah teaches you. If a person wants to succeed at anything in life, it wants to succeed in Torah, it requires a certain singular focus and devotion. That's what the Torah is teaching. Okay, now I want to show you something interesting. Why is it that, in Torah, there's an interesting thing. When somebody dies, the burial takes place as soon as possible. Are you aware of that? They try to bury the person as soon as possible. I think by the Irish, they have a wake. Don't they have a wake? They have a viewing and a wake and a, what do you call it? And it takes, you have some booze and what do you call it? They wait for 3 days or 4 days and they have a viewing. And the Torah opinion is, no, we don't do that. And you look at the Torah insight into human nature and psychology. In the Torah, you bury as soon as possible. Why is that? There are several concerns. Concern number one, and it shows you that the Torah is the greatest psychologist in the world. Concern number one is the healing process doesn't begin until the burial. A person needs to heal. There's a healing process. And that process does not begin, not only that, the Mishnah in Pirkei Avos says you don't even comfort somebody until the deceased is buried. Because they're not ready to be comforted at that point. There's no comfort at that point. Their relative is lying in front of them. You do not comfort at that point. After that, then the comforting begins. Only then are they ready to accept any sort of comfort. And therefore, the first thing is we bury as soon as possible. And it's also, by the way, Kabbalistically, it's better for the neshama, for the soul. Because the soul, apparently, until the body is buried, the soul is kind of in this state of confusion and limbo. And if the soul could only get released and go on to wherever it's going, After the body is buried. So the Torah says, number one, you bury it in order to get the soul, to release the soul. Number two, if the body's around, it causes even more pain to the family. That's why these people do the, what do you call it? I think, what's it called? The cremation, and then they keep the ashes in a jar on the, in the living room. I don't know if that's supposed to comfort them. Is that supposed to be a comfort of some sort? I don't know why they do that, but the Torah says absolutely not. Cremation is prohibited and keeping it around is prohibited. Number two. Number three, we're worried about, worried about what's called Doresh El HaMesim. Doresh El HaMesim is when a person contacts the dead. What's the official word for that? That's bringing up is necromancy? What's it called? Or is it called necromancy? Is Sally? Which one? What's it called? What? Making contact with the dead. A necromancer, I think. Yeah, I think necromancy to contact the dead and the spirits and so on and so forth. By the way, we believe in the spirits, and not only that, one of the signs of a madman, the Talmud says a clinical madman is somebody who would be willing to go to a cemetery and sleep alone in a cemetery overnight. That's a sign of a clinical, because everybody gets the heebie-jeebies from a cemetery. That's why nobody understands why there's a wall around the cemetery. If the people inside can't get out, and the people outside certainly don't want to get in. What are you worried about? They're going to steal tombstones, or what are you worried about there? So, but all these cemeteries have big walls around them. Not clear why, you should put walls around a bank, not around a cemetery. But the good question, good kasha, right? So another reason to have the body buried as soon as possible is so that people don't try to communicate with the dead. What's called necromancy, it's a prohibition in the Torah. It's called Doresh El HaMesim. And the idol worshippers of the pagan nations there were certain secrets that they knew how to do these things and so on and so forth. Number three, there's actually a time where people would actually make use of the bones to make spoons or forks or that sort of thing. And a guy sitting at the table, he could set the table with a fork, a spoon, and Uncle Al. What do you call it? Because they took Uncle Al's bones. So in order and you're not allowed to disabuse the dead bodies, and therefore the Torah says that you're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to go in, you're not allowed to get the body buried as soon as possible. Now, I want to show you something really, you have to see this inside though. Make sure you're looking inside. Do you remember yesterday I told you, or 3 days ago I told you, Shlomo HaMelech, you have to see this inside now, gentlemen. Shlomo HaMelech said, Amarti echkema v'hi rechoka mimeni. Shlomo said, I will become wise. There was one mitzvah in the Torah that Shlomo HaMelech could not fail them, and it was that paradox of the red cow. Yet, the Medrash says there was one man who it was explained to completely clearly. And who was that? Who would you guess? What's that? 100%. The Medrash says that Hashem explained it to Moshe Rabbeinu. Yet Shlomo HaMelech could not fathom it. He could not get to the depths and understand that paradox of the Parah Aduma. That's what the Medrash says. Now, I want you to look at Pasuk Yud Zayin very carefully. Do you see V'lakchu latame? It's 9 lines from the bottom. If you see it, please show the person next to you. I want you to see this inside. Everybody see that? V'lakchu latame me afar streifa sachatas. They should take for the impure person from the dirt of the chatas, the offering that has been burnt, which is the dirt of the red cow. When of ma'im chayim el keli, and you pour water on it. Now, part of the symbolism here, why this purifies somebody, if I had to ask you, what would you say is the ultimate physicality in life? The ultimate symbol of physical? Meat. A good steak. Right? Yeah, tuna fish. Chicken, I like. Salmon, nice. Sushi. I purposely skipped that. Steak. Oh, a good thick 2-inch That's physical. Now that's physical, right? That now we're talking. Chicken, all right, I like fried chicken as much as the next guy, but a steak. Well done. Well done. None of this raw business. I don't want none of this red inside. Well done. What's steak tartare? What is that? Steak
You must
tartare.
not like steak that much.
Oh, I do. Oh, I
You
do.
want it well done.
Oh yeah. I like I like I don't need things. Yeah. No. Yeah. The what do you call it? The with the bone. We got it with the bone. And steak tartare is like raw meat, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
With the raw
Oh, we
egg.
don't do that. What?
With the raw egg in it.
Oh, that sounds really healthy. That's number 1 and 2 causes of salmonella poisoning. Yes, there we go.
Broken marrow?
I like everything about it. I like everything about it, especially what's on the other guy's plate. I like everything about it. So now that's physicality. What causes a person to become impure in life in all areas is the immersion in physicality. What do you do with the red cow? The red cow is the sign of that physicality. That's where steaks come from. Steaks don't grow on trees, steaks come from a cow. You take the red cow, you burn it up into ashes. Symbolically, we're trying to somehow get control of that physicality. And what do you mix it with? With water. What does water always symbolize?
Life.
Torah. Life, correct. Torah. Ein mayim ela Torah, the Gemara says. Ein mayim ela Torah. Torah is like water. Why? Why is Torah water? Because Torah is water is, you can survive without food for a while. You can survive without food. I remember those hunger strikers in Ireland. Remember those guys, the hunger strike, you guys weren't born yet. The hunger strikers in Ireland who were going to, when they had when they were against Margaret Thatcher, when she was and these guys went on strike. Now, by me, I was a teenager at the time. By me, everything was statistics. Who's leading the league in hitting, home runs, RBIs, that sort of thing. So by me, it was always records. So one guy set the record 66 days on his hunger strike. But then his record got broken, then he died. Then the other guy broke it, set the record at 71 days, then he died. By me, it was all records. They weren't around to appreciate their own records, but they set records. Water, you could go for a couple of, these guys went a couple of months just on water, just on liquid. Food, without food. Without water, can't last more than 3 days. So you take water as the basis of life. Torah is the basis of life. You mix the Torah, which is the spiritual component that helps a person get control of himself. You mix it with the ashes, which represents his taking control of the physical. You put it together, that purifies the person. That's what's underlying the idea of the red cow. More. Take a look at the words now. This is why I say you have to see this inside. Who understood it clearly, gentlemen? Who understood it clearly? Moshe Rabbeinu. Take a look at the pasuk again inside. Yud Zayin. Nick, you see where that is? If everybody, please show the person next to you. V'lakchu. Now look at the next 4 words, gentlemen. Latame me offer sreifa sachatas. Look at the first letter in each word. Lamed, mem, shin, hey. Lim Moshe. That means to Moshe, it was taught clearly, straight. You'll notice it spells his name exactly in order. Le Moshe. If you rearrange the letters, what does it spell? Shlomo. That means Shlomo, it wasn't clear to him. He didn't have it straight. Le Moshe, it was straight. To Shlomo HaMelech, that's what the Medrash says. Moshe Rabbeinu, this is one thing, it was taught clearly. Shlomo HaMelech, we had confusion on this. Okay, one of those little coincidences in Torah. Okay. Now, skip to Perek Chav Pasuk Beis. Vayavo b'nei Yisrael, page 842, 4th line. Vayavo b'nei Yisrael kol ha'eda midbar Tzin. 4th line. The entire congregation comes to the desert of Tzin. B'chodesh harishon vayeshev ha'am b'kodesh. V'tomas sham Miriam v'tikaver sham. Gentlemen, you just got 40 years older. You just got 38 years older. Because up until now we were in the 2nd year of the desert, and now we have just gotten to the 40th year. We just skipped 38 years. That means all the complaints, all the kvetching, all the times that the earth opened up and swallowed people up, and all the calamity, the fires and the snakes, that all happened. 38 years, people didn't say boo. Right? So people look at the Chumash, you learn the Parsha, you go, oh man, these people the Jews are always kvetching and complaining. 10 times in 40 years is not bad.
Wait, why do we know it's 40 years?
Because they were in the desert for 40 years.
And Miriam died.
And then Miriam died in the 40th year. She dies in the 40th year. 38 years are not, we go from first year, second year, 40th year. That's all the Torah reports. 38 years, there were no kvetching, no complaining, no earth cracking open and sucking people in, none of that. So, people, the idea here is the Jewish people are being held to a very exacting standard. When you look at if you look at the Chumash, it sounds like they're just kvetching every 5 minutes. What are they kvetching about? Well, little things. No water in a hot desert. I'd be kvetching too. Ask any shul rabbi if he was a rabbi of a shul for 40 years and the people only complained 10 times. You know how often people complain by shul rabbis? 10 times an hour. And if the phone rings 11 times, 10 of them are complaints. So it gives you an idea of the exacting standard that this generation was being held to. Now, Miriam dies. Watch with this. What happens? Vatamas sham Miriam vatikaver sham. She dies and she's buried there. And then what happens? V'lohaya mayim la'eda. There's the water. Vayikalu al Moshe v'Aaron. They gather against Moshe and Aaron. Why was there no water? Why is there no water? Because Miriam died, so?
She was the well.
She was the well. It was in her merit that the well was there. And by the way, if you look at the word Miriam, it's a very interesting name. Look at the word Miriam. Notice that take out the resh. What have you got? Mem Yud Mem, Mayim. The word Miriam has the word Mayim in it. And not only that, the word resh in Hebrew means poor. That means when she died, they become impoverished of water. So, another little coincidence, Eitan. So Miriam has died and she's buried there. Why was the well there in her merit? That means they had 3 gifts. The Jewish people had 3 gifts. They had the clouds, they had the well, and they had the, the manna. The well was there in the merit of Miriam. Why? Because she
helped create Moshe Rabbeinu.
She waited when Moshe Rabbeinu was in the water. Remember, Moshe was thrown in the water. She went down there to see what would happen when Basi Basprah went down there. So one opinion is because she waited by the water, she was rewarded with water. Number 2, Miriam beautified the Jewish women in Mitzrayim. The men were working. The men were not in the mood to have children. And Miriam went around beautifying the women in order to be more attractive to their husbands so that their husbands would then live with their wives, and that would help to produce the Jewish people. A woman is called a well because she is, what's a well? Source of water. A woman is a source of life. Since she brought about that the women served as wells in the Jewish people, therefore the water well was there, the be'er was there in Miriam's merit. Where do we find this, by the way? Where else do we find that the water is, that a woman, a well, a connection to the woman in the well? When Yaakov Avinu is looking for a wife, where does he go? He goes to the well. Why is he going to the well? Moshe Rabbeinu is looking for a wife, where does he go? He goes to the well. Why do they go to the well? Because the woman is considered the well. The woman is the source of life. So Miriam, the well is there in her merit. The problem is the Jewish people didn't know that. And there's a medrash that says there was a king who banished the king got upset with his son, the prince. So he banished his son off to some commoner's house. He sent his son off to the commoner. But he was concerned about his son. So every day he sent him massive amounts of food and drink and delicacies just to make sure his son's being taken care of well. Kept happening, and this commoner at a certain point starts thinking to himself, hey, I guess the king likes me. Keeps sending me, all this good stuff. And then one day the king summons back the prince. And the day he summons back the prince, he stops sending over the food and the delicacies. At that point, the commoner realizes it wasn't because of me, it was because of him. The Jewish people, 40 years in the desert, they didn't know why the water was there. They thought the water was there. Sure, God took us out. There's a well. They did not realize it was in her merit. When do they realize it's in her merit? When Miriam dies. Miriam died, no well. Then they understand that it's in Miriam's merit. Then the well comes back in the merit of Moshe Rabbeinu. But now it's to show the Jewish people that, now, one last point. We'll have to stop here. And we'll continue with this tomorrow. What's today? Wednesday. Sunday, Mirza Hashem. Okay.